How about now? Better?
Perfect.
Yeah, that's weird. Must be a little demon inside my mixer here, or the computer. Vanchakapatulubhyascha kripasindhivyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vanchakapatulubhyascha kripasindhivyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. All right, I have to tell you something. As you know from Monday's class, that I just get up early in the morning and I'm working on organizing the self-care course, and I just finished a guided meditation that we're going to do during the course. That could be the most transforming guided meditation of your sojourn in the material universe. What do you think of that? Sound impressive? So yeah, it's gonna like hit you. It's gonna hit you very deeply. At least that's my intention. So I just wanted to give you an appetizer of what's going to happen. And I was I'm working on it since like 4:30 this morning. And I'm in the middle of working on it, very excited. And I look at my computer, it says it's 8:30. You have to get ready. You haven't eaten breakfast. Still didn't eat breakfast, no time. It's okay. I had breakfast last night. I was invited for prasadam last night, so I consider that. Sometimes I don't eat breakfast, and my wife says, why? And I said, well, I had breakfast last night. Because often I don't eat at night, so if I eat at night, I'm not always hungry in the morning. So that's what happened. And yeah, we were talking on Monday, and we were saying how Krishna doesn't know how not to love. It's like, Krishna has anger, but it's all motivated from love, and Krishna has enmity, but it's all motivated from love. So in the spiritual world, its nature is that everything that happens, its motivation is love, although it looks different, especially from our perspective, because we know what love isn't, we know what hate is, we know what envy is. So sometimes, and we know what lust is. So sometimes it looks like all those things, but it's important to understand that in spiritual existence, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratitavitabis and Brahma Samhita. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, everything is of a transcendental nature and blissful, conscious, eternal, but most importantly, there is no material hatred, there is no material contamination, which means, therefore, that everything is motivated by love. And that's why we said last week, Krishna doesn't know how not to love us, because there's not really hatred as we understand it within spiritual existence, what to speak of within Krishna, who's, of course, the personification of everything spiritual. So I think it's important to understand that. Don't you? God doesn't like me. No, he doesn't know how not to like you. It's like not liking you is not part of, he may like it better if you were doing things that were going to help you get back to Godhead. But if you don't want to, it's not like he hates you. That he can manifest that anger, but it's transcendental, it's Leela, and it's blissful, and it's coming from his own love in his heart. It's like Prabhupada said, in one lecture, Prabhupada said, actually, Lord Nrsingadev did not come to kill Hiranyakashipu, but he came to bless Prahlad Maharaj. But part of having to bless him is that he had to kill Hiranyakashipu. And also, sometimes we'll look at different reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. He appeared to give the holy name, save the fallen souls, but his main reason was to relish. It was love. It was, and then that the secondary reason was to spread Krishna consciousness. Krishna's primary reason is to exchange rasa. Secondary reason to establish dharma. So if you look at Krishna's primary reasons, it's all like showing love to the devotees, isn't it? And any kind of enmity is like, oh, I got to work today. But my real business is, to love. Okay, we're going to Mathura, and, I got to take care of some business. But that's not my real business. So Krishna's real business is to love, because that's what he does best. That's what he knows how to do. And so this meditation kind of shows us that because that's his nature, and we're part and parcel of him, then we're automatically in the line of fire, so to speak. We're in the line of fire of Krishna's love, not because we deserve it, but because he gives it. Then I heard something. The devotee sent me a podcast. It's actually a podcast by a Mormon lady. And she was saying, she's a psychologist, she was saying that, how do people feel unworthy of God's mercy or God's love? And she made a point, which is our point. She said that, like, I think I'm fallen, I'm lowly, I'm bad, I'm whatever, so I don't deserve his mercy. And she made the point that the fact that you're fallen, lowly, etc., is why he gives mercy. So the very things you might think that disqualify you from mercy are the things that qualify you from mercy. Well, that was nice. I mean, we say that, Mahaprabhu is merciful to the most fallen. But, you could think like Krishna, why would he be merciful? But you know why he would be merciful? Because we need it. Because we're a mess. That's why. So the very thing that we think would disqualify us from mercy is the thing that qualifies us for mercy. Correct? That's nice to know, right? Kali Yuga is not as bad as you thought it was. There's a lot of mercy here, and it's not a bad time to be alive, right? You get 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years, and then you finish your business, go back to Godhead. That's better than 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000. Okay, so I could go on and on and on and on, and if I don't stop now, I will go on and on and on and on, but I want to read some things that Prabhupada said. So, Chaitanya Dasi, can you bring up where we left off? And we were talking about this very esoteric topic of separation, and I had compiled many, many quotes, and I had predicted that once we get halfway through, it's going to be a little redundant. But it's okay, because I think we need to hear these things over and over and over. And so there are two aspects that we're dealing with in these quotes from Prabhupada. I think most of what we dealt with previously, or in the last classes, except maybe the last class was different, but prior to that, we were dealing with Krishna, separation from Krishna. I think now we're going to be dealing, we dealt with separation from Guru in the beginning, and I think when you go to Prabhupada's letters, maybe there's going to be more of that. Anyway. I am in due receipt of your letter, October 2nd, 1968, and noted the contents very carefully. I am so glad to learn that the New York devotees are all feeling my separation, and you. Prabhupada's glad that they're feeling separation. That sounds insensitive, doesn't it? Oh, we miss you so much. I'm so glad to hear that. We're ready to kill ourselves. I'm so glad to hear that. I can't even get out of bed. I miss you so much. I'm so glad to hear that. No. All feeling my separation. I'm so glad to learn that the New York devotees are all feeling my separation, and you're feeling also. This is very blissful. Oh, right. There it is. That's the punchline. And if I tell someone who misses me it's blissful, they're like, why did you say that? In the transcendental platform, actually separation is more relishable than meeting, but either separation or meeting, the state is always absolute. Actually, in the spiritual platform, there is no separation, but it is a different stage of rasa. As we said, there's no separation from someone you're always thinking of, especially if that someone is absolute. As we go on chanting Hare Krishna, in the pure status, we shall be on the loving platform. And at the same time, we shall feel the greatest separation from the Lord, but that feeling of separation from the Lord is more relishable than meeting the Lord. Oh, so sorry. The second part is a quote from the next letter. Anyway, that's okay. Yeah. So here Prabhupada's making a point. Like we from the material platform, we don't like separation. It's like painful, especially when it's pizza, right? We don't like separation from pizza. It's like being separated from pizza is not blissful. So we feel that way with one another, with the spiritual master, with Krishna, like we feel with something material. Being separated from it is not blissful, right? So if you're hungry and there's nothing to eat, and I say, well, just meditate on the food, it's more blissful to meditate on it than it is to eat it. At least you lose weight that way. But you're going to think like, that's not a good answer, like I'm hungry and I need to eat. So we apply that same logic spiritually. And so every time Prabhupada says, the ecstasy of separation, as we read on Monday or the Friday or last Wednesday it was, the ecstasy of separation. And, you hear that word, the ecstasy of separation, and you're like, I don't think so. I don't know what that is, ecstasy of separation. And here Prabhupada saying, more blissful and more relishable. And we're looking at it like pizza is not blissful and relishable on someone else's plate halfway across the world. We're looking at it materially. It's like, how is it more blissful? So it takes time and advancement in Krishna consciousness to understand and appreciate this. So we're all talking theory here, right? We're talking theory. So we're trying to, that's the way Krishna consciousness is. A lot of things we don't have experience of, and then we have to talk about it theoretically to try to make sense, because when you're trying to understand spiritual life, as humans on this planet, we filter everything through human experience. So that's why some things are difficult to understand. So if you're trying to understand it through human experience, this is something that you won't understand well. Understand a little bit. Separation makes the heart grow fonder. We think of people more when we're separated. We want to be with them more. We understand that. But because separation is not absolute, then if we look at it from the material perspective, it's not going to work. So now we want to meditate on, Prabhupada said, separation is sweeter. Separation is blissful. And that's why Prabhupada said, oh, it's very good you're feeling separation, because Prabhupada's thinking, oh, they must be very blissful because they're thinking about their spiritual master. But they were not really, they were missing him. Definitely missing him. Of course, they were blissful, engaged in devotional service. And obviously, some bliss there, thinking about Prabhupada, of course. We're not saying that thinking about him is just going to cause you pain because he's not there. Naturally blissful, but not fully realized, not always feeling that it's blissful. And sometimes, as I said, we get upset if someone says, oh, separation is blissful. Well, you're feeling painful when someone's putting salt on your wound by saying, oh, that's really blissful. I really miss my guru. Oh, that's really blissful, Prabhu. That's really blissful, Mataji. You must be so ecstatic. And you're thinking, wow, can you get out of my life? I don't need people like you around. When actually all they were doing was repeating what Prabhupada said. I have personal experience. So I can give a class about this, but I can't say this if I'm with you leaving, like at the airport. I don't say these things because I've said them before, and it's a total flop, like a joke that no one laughs at. It doesn't work. So in any case, we at least have to begin with the theoretical understanding by putting ourselves not in a vision from this world, but looking at it from the spiritual perspective. And so from the spiritual perspective, separation is meeting. Krishna is present in separation. So that's the idea. And so Prabhupada's applying that idea to the spiritual master, that he's also present in separation in a more intense way, in a deeper way, through his instruction, through his service. And that you can only experience by actually doing it. And you have to be, like, do something like Prabhupada did, like take your guru's mission to another country for the first time. You will definitely feel the presence of your guru if you do something like that, right? If your guru says, jump off this mountain and Krishna will catch you, and you actually do it, you'll definitely feel his presence because he told you to do something and you might die. And because you might die, it's good that you're thinking of him. So in these situations where you put yourself out on the limb, or you try to do something your guru asks you to do that's difficult, yeah, you definitely feel him because you depend on him. So we do have some experience of this. And I've always, I was always kind of inclined to do things which were difficult because I felt like, well, that's when Prabhupada, comes in my life more intensely because of the difficulty of the situation. Either it's just a difficult situation or the service is difficult to do. Either case, if you've ever been in a situation that way, either way, case you feel closer to your guru, you feel closer to Prabhupada, you feel closer to Krishna. So we do have some experience. But anyway, this is the main message we're getting from reading everything Prabhupada said about separation is that it's ecstatic and blissful. And that our job is to figure out you try to understand how it's ecstatic and blissful, even if we don't feel that way. Always, right? Yeah. Well, if you could be Krishna conscious 24/7, would you be ecstatic and blissful? Of course. Can separation from Krishna cause you to be Krishna conscious 24/7? Yes. That's what Prabhupada means. When you're on the platform of love, separation intensifies your love. And you're always thinking of Krishna no matter what. But when you're separated, you're thinking more intensely. Therefore, your bliss is going up because there's more deeper meditation. That's simple to understand, isn't it? Yeah, that's very simple to understand. So that's the idea. So this is a philosophical class, very philosophical class. And speaking philosophically now, our philosophy, as taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and explained by Srila Prabhupada, our philosophy is that separation is higher. That's like the aspiration is separation. So like, if you go back to Godhead and you see Krishna, tell him to go away and tell him, Krishna, I don't want to see you because separation is higher. No, it's not going to be exactly like that. But we understand it that way, right? Like that, like what's the goal of Krishna consciousness? The goal is to be separated from God. And you're thinking, well, I'm already separated from God. That's why I'm suffering. No, it's not like that. It's not to be separated, it's to feel separation. That's the goal. That's the highest state of consciousness that exists in the universe, material or spiritual, is to feel separation from God. That's the highest possible consciousness you could get. And therefore, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas cultivate that consciousness. There you go. You've just learned the highest thing that you could ever learn. Cultivating feelings of separation is the highest. And then you're thinking, how does this relate to me? I can hardly get out of bed and chant my rounds. That's a good question. How does it relate to you? Well, we tried to bring this discussion more down to guru-disciple relationship because that relates to us. And you remember we talked about, yeah, we do feel separation. We feel separation from following the orders. That's what we feel separation from sometimes, along with separation from pizza and other things. And so I always make the point, separation will be there. But so that's not the separation we're talking about, that when you don't do devotional service well. But the beauty, at least the way I see it, the beauty of it is that if I feel separation from Guru or Krishna, the only way I can relieve the pang of separation is to get their association through their service and their vani. Otherwise, I just feel pain, but that's not transcendental pain, it's material pain, because I'm seeing it materially. Oh, I feel so much pain from Guru. If that pain is coming from not following the Guru, then the way you relieve the pain is to follow, because then you feel the presence through following, right? So that's good. So that's the answer. That's the solution to your situation. To relieve your pain of separation, you will follow, and then you'll get their association. So I think that's one of the main conclusions we've come to through teaching this course. Hasn't it been? Like, if you're feeling separation, how are you going to get it? You're going to hear and you're going to serve. And then we made the point, look at the disciples of Prabhupada or the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta or any of the disciples of gurus who are no longer present. How are they going on if their guru's gone? How do you live? And you'll find, if you talk to them, they'll say, no, I'm connected to my guru. I don't feel that he's gone. Otherwise, if you feel he's gone, you will go also. You'll be like, what's the use? He's gone. I'll go. It's over. Party's over. It was fun for a while. And, Prabhupada was here for 12 years. That was like a good 12 years. And now it's over. But as we said, when Prabhupada left, that's the time that we had to become more connected with him, because we weren't going to see him anymore physically. And so we could only access his association through service. So we had to become more dedicated. And through that dedication, then we experience his presence. There's another thing also, which is really interesting. And I mentioned this, but I just heard about this, I think, from maybe a psychological perspective. When you watch Prabhupada's videos and the devotees are telling their stories, it sometimes feels like they're fully experiencing what they're saying, like they're there, they remember it. And so in their mind, they're there, they're seeing it, and they're experiencing it. And then I heard something and someone said, yeah, no, it was it's a book on storytelling. I got this little app and it does summaries of books. Now I have to figure out how not to charge me if I don't like it. They probably make it difficult, right? Because you can, how do I stop this? It takes you like too long to figure out, so you never stop it. And they get your $16 a month. But anyway, it was a book summary on storytelling. And they were saying the beauty of storytelling is it actually gives people the experience, the emotional experience of being present. And then I thought of the devotees telling the stories about Prabhupada, and you can see there are all kinds of emotion. They're just sitting down for an interview, and 5 minutes later they're crying. Like, what happened? Like their mother didn't die. Someone didn't eat their sweet ball. Why are they crying? Because they're telling a story that brings them into a situation which then stimulates the emotion that they experience at that time, or another emotion that story is stimulating. So that's another way we get association. We can experience association by talking about the person and experiencing their presence. Like, for example, specifically, I think this is, if you hear someone who's very good at kata, or if you hear kata in Vrindavan on Parikrama or Mayapur, often it's like it's like you are experiencing the ecstasy that Radha and Krishna and the gopis and the cow. It feels like you're experiencing what they experienced, like you're there, kind of, isn't it? It's like, wow. So it's almost like I'm not feeling separation from Krishna because it feels like it's just like happening. This is the place that this happened, and you tell the story, and everybody's laughing and crying and rolling on the ground and beating their head on the rocks and everything. And they're just hearing a story, but it's in the Dham, it's at that place. The storyteller is really good, and we experience it. So that's a secret. If you're feeling separation, you want to hear or recite stories about that person. And we do this often you see this. This is very, it's so interesting. I find this interesting. On the disappearance day of devotees, we tell stories about them, and we're laughing and we're relishing. And I'm thinking like, wait a minute, you're celebrating a person's death. You're not supposed to be happy. Stop being happy, everyone. Be miserable. This person is gone. That's like, that voice is there in my mind. Like, wait a minute, not really that voice is there, but just how an onlooker may look at it. I don't really think that way. But especially when a person leaves, like in Alachua, there's lots of older devotees. So sometimes we go through periods where every year, we go through periods, every year, 1 or 2 or 3 people leave their body because we're all in our 70s. So it's kind of like, when at your age, it's like, I'll die someday. At our age, it's like, hey, Prabhu, who's next? Maybe you, maybe me, something like that. It's like the line is much shorter right now. You're in the back of this long line because you're young, but when you're 70, you're getting towards the front. And so then we have these memorial festivals. We just had one for this devotee named Gaur Sundar. I don't remember anything else after that. But devotees will start talking, and they'll start glorifying the devotee, and you'll start feeling, you'll feel inspired, or you'll feel attracted to the devotee. And you start feeling like, oh, I wish I could have met the devotee. And they'll often tell you stories that are very endearing and stories that are very funny. And everybody's laughing. And then you have kirtan, everybody's jumping up and down and dancing. Then you have a feast, and everybody's telling, when you eat, you tell jokes, right? Do you tell jokes when you eat? Or you talk lightly, and everyone's having a great time. And I'm thinking, this is weird. I mean, I'm thinking it in a funny Krishna conscious way. I said, isn't this weird? This person just died, and all the devotees are like telling jokes and laughing and jumping up and down and eating 10-course feast. Is that like, from the material perspective, is like not really how it happens. When somebody dies, it's like you're supposed to put on black and, have a sad face and mourn, right? Isn't it? In the Jewish religion, yeah, you're supposed to. I don't know, maybe the Islamic tradition is different, but, Jewish religion is like, they call it sit shivers, and you're like, for 7 days, you just like mourn, and like, unless you didn't like the guy, it's hard to mourn. You're like, thank God he's dead. That does happen sometimes. You ever feel that way, Scarlett? You're like, why did it take him so long? Oh God, why did you wait so long? No, okay, she doesn't think like that. Okay, some people do. Some people, by their actions, causes a great celebration when they die. But the point is that you have these disappearance celebrations and everyone's around like they just got the news so-and-so died, especially if it's your guru, and it's like, it's like heavy. But then you go to the Disappearance Day festival, and if you just walked in and you didn't know what was going on, you would just think it's like, wow, this is blissful. What are they doing? You wouldn't feel it, right? Because by talking about that person, they now feel the presence of that person. So they no longer feel the separation until they stop talking and they go home. And they go, oh my God, I'll never see my Guru Maharaj again. He's not here. And then they just, crash. But while they're talking, they're experiencing his presence, isn't it? So, sometimes you could even say that maybe they talk more about their guru and feel it even more when he's absent. So that's why Prabhupada says it's blissful, ecstatic. Okay, you want to go to the next quote? This is letter to Mukundlal. Okay. These are old letters, 68. This is, okay, I have to put you in context. Prabhupada came in 1965, not a whole lot happened. Finally, in September of 66, I believe, like a year after he arrived, he formed officially ISKCON as a corporation. So things were kind of starting. He had one temple. By the time this letter was written, there's probably 7 temples, maybe, in the world. And maybe like 150, 200 devotees in the world, at least full-time. So you get the context. And the average age of the devotee at this time would be 19 or 20. And the average time they're in the movement, 6 months. That's my guess, around that time. So that's who this letter is being written to, some 20-year-old who's been around 6 months. So you get context. And it'll be interesting because Prabhupada sometimes just, gave the philosophy right to new people, as we will see here. So far, crying for Krishna is concerned, it is very nicely explained by Lord Chaitanya. He says that a moment is appearing to me as 12 years, and my eyes are tearing, torrents of rain, and I'm feeling vacant in the absence of Govinda. The thing is that as we go on chanting Hare Krishna, I'm going to copy this and put it into Word. And then when I read it, I will be reading more. Oops. I will be reading more directly. That helps at all. The thing is that as we go on chanting Hare Krishna in the pure status, we shall be on the loving platform. And at the same time, we shall feel the greatest separation from the Lord. But that feeling of separation from the Lord is more relishable than meeting the Lord. Here we go again, everyone. More relishable. Okay. Wow. I'm trying to do something. Hold on a second. These are all transcendental, existential understandings. And as we grow in Krishna consciousness, we understand everything gradually by the grace of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and he reveals himself to the devotee with the progress of Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much for writing me. So Prabhupada's, he's repeating what we've discussed, and he's also saying, well, you probably can't understand this much, but gradually you'll understand it because it's not something you just understand by reading. So then the connotation is there is don't worry, be patient. As you become purified, you'll understand. In other words, you can only understand to a certain point right now because you only have the purity that would enable you to understand at that point, obviously. But it's okay, because if you keep in the process and you're patient, then you're going to be able to understand these things. So I think that's good for us, because if any of you are thinking, I'll never understand separation, this is like so above me. I mean, I understand separation from something material, but I don't understand much about this blissful ecstatic separation. I kind of understand theoretically, but it's not always my experience, and et cetera, et cetera. Prabhupada is saying, yes, you don't, because you can't, because you're not pure enough. But when you become pure, or as you become pure, gradually, you will understand. And so it's basically another way of saying what Rupa Goswami says is utsahan nishtedaya, be patient. And you know this verse, Nectar of Instruction, utsahan nishtedaya, be patient, be faithful, and be enthusiastic. They all go together. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but if you're not patient, how can you be enthusiastic? And if you don't have faith in something, why would you have any enthusiasm to do it? Right? So, okay, I need patience and faith to be enthusiastic. So it kind of comes, you know. Or if you say, I'm not patient, I'm not confident, then fake your enthusiasm. And then maybe you'll get the patience from it. But if we don't have patience, you know what happens? We give up, because we want results. We want them quickly. So Rupa Goswami, in giving this instruction, it's quite interesting to think about. Why did he choose to give this instruction? He could have given so many instructions. Because he knew that as conditioned souls, it's going to be a gradual process. And he knew, because it's so gradual and so slow, that a certain percentage of people will give up because the results are not coming fast enough, or the results are not what they expected. You know, like in the self-care course, a lot of devotees reveal, like, I feel really bad about myself because I'm not very Krishna conscious. And often in that course, I say, well, you got your timeline wrong. That's the problem. It's not that you're not doing well. It's just the timeline. I had sprained my ankle, actually twice. And I thought, you know, a week or 7 or 10 days, I'll be fine. And I wasn't fine for like 2 months. I guess the degree that I sprained it, it was going to take that long. And, you know, I become impatient because I think something's wrong. Why isn't it healing? I was walking on it. That's part of the reason. But obviously, if some doctor said, you can't walk on this, you have to keep it up, and if you don't, it's going to take a couple of months to heal, and let's say I couldn't keep it up because I had to work, then I wouldn't be impatient, because I know, oh, it's going to take that long, and I didn't know that, so I become impatient. So a lot of us, our timelines are wrong. We think things are going to happen faster. Or, as you know, the second problem is things are happening, but we don't notice it because the car's moving and you're not noticing that it's moving. And all the scenery looks like the same. So you get out of the car and it looks like it's the same place where you started, but it's actually further, but you don't perceive it because it's gradual. So that's why patience is so important, because you've got to stick it out until the end. No matter what happens on the way, it's like investing, right? They go like, just keep investing, you know, you do, eventually you'll make money if you know what you're doing, or just put this money in investment. All you young people, you take $300 a month. So every month that's $3,600, and you do that for like 8 years. Then you have 28,000 approximately, and then you just leave that. You leave that in an investment, an index fund or something, and when you retire, you'll have $1.5 million. But when you leave the 28,000 in, let's say today Chaitanya Dasi is going to leave 28,000, and next month she checks it and it's 27,000 because the stock market went down. She's like, oh, this is bad investment. Let me take it out. Or she checks it and it's 28,076. She's like, I've left this in there for like 3 months and I only made $76. This is like what I could be spending this on something. What's going on here? And all the investors will say, it's called compound interest. The market will go up and down, but ultimately it goes up. And if you leave the money in there, then whatever money you make, it'll just be reinvested. So when you retire, you'll have $1.5 million. Hopefully $1.5 million will be able to buy you a bagel by then, with inflation. But you don't know. I mean, the theory is $1.5 million you could live off. But 50 years from now, I don't know. So, but that's the idea. So, if you don't understand that, you become very impatient. And it's just like, this is so slow. This is just like, it's not happening. So bhakti is like that. And when you advance in Krishna consciousness, when you're an older devotee, you'll realize that all these little things you did, all these austerities, all this, struggles and this and that, they all compound interest. And it starts to show up. And, there are little things that you didn't think were showing up, but when you put them all together, they show up. So that's the idea. Does that make sense? So that's a long way of saying, don't be stupid enough to give up because you're not seeing the results you want. And the other thing is, if you're not seeing results, maybe you're doing something wrong, or you could do something better and get better results. But generally, the results are not drastic until you go to Vrindavan. Then you'll get some drastic results. If you want drastic results, go to Vrindavan and Mayapur. Chant 64 rounds and like that, you'll get more drastic results. But generally the results, they'll be there, but they'll be slow. And so here's the frustrating part is that there's going to be so many things in Krishna consciousness you're going to read, and after you read them, you're going to go, okay, I didn't get that one. And you read it again and you go, I didn't get it. And you read it again and you go, I think I got it, but I really don't think I got it. All right, let's forget that one. Let's go to the next purport. You ever have that experience? And then you realize that I guess I'm not advanced enough to really understand this. It's not just like like I got straight A's in school. Why can't I understand this purport? You ever have that experience? Like, I was the smartest person in my class. I understand philosophy, understand psychology, understand science. Why can't I understand this purport? Because you have to be pure. You're just not high. It's not high IQs can't understand it. That's high IQs. Problem if you have a high IQ is you have special shakti to misunderstand it because you think you understand it, right? That's the problem of being intelligent. You think you understand everything. So that's an important bit of information for all of us. When you get frustrated, it's just that we have to become more pure. But it's also the beauty of it, because as you become more pure, then you relish it more, and it comes out at you. You know more. You absorb more. You'll have more realization, and the only way, or one of the only ways to get there, is to read all those purports that you don't understand. And just keep reading them because they're purifying you and you don't realize it. Like, there's this story, this lady had a basket. This lady was going to Bhagavatam and she was saying, I go to Bhagavatam, but it's like nothing sticks with me. In one ear, out the other. I'm still the same mess as I always was. I don't have any realization, this and that. And the Bhagavatam reciter is like, no, it's not like that. Bhagavatam's puring. Shrindata Sakata Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana. It's purifying. You should hear it. He goes, nah, I don't understand. He says, I would like you to bring me Jamuna water in a basket. Obviously, the basket's not going to hold water. And she tells him that. He says, just do it. So she fills it up with water and she brings it. And then as she's walking, the water's dripping out because it's a basket, and she brings it back empty. And she said, the basket, you told me to get the water, the basket's empty, there's nothing in it. And he said, yeah, that's right, but is the basket clean now? And then she got it. Said, yeah, it's clean. So that's the idea that sometimes you're hearing Bhagavatam, you hear about Mahaprabhu's separation at the Gambhira, and he's banging his head and, totally in the mood of Radharani, and it's like, how am I going to understand Radharani's love? I don't even love my mother half the time. And if anybody you should love, it should be her, right? How am I going to understand Radharani's love? You know how you're going to understand it? By reading it and reading it and reading it again and again and again, and you get purified. And one day you're going to read it and the lights are going to go off and they go, oh my Govinda, I actually understand this. That ever happened to you? You read something and you finally understood it? Like after the 17,000th time you read it, and you go, I finally got it. I'm a slow learner. Not that you're a slow learner, there's just a lot of mud in there and crud and dirt. And so it's like it doesn't get in until you clean it out. Yes? As I like to say, there's a lot of Novocaine in there. Novocaine is what you get when you get your tooth pulled. I don't know in your country if they call it Novocaine or they have something else, so you don't feel any pain. There's a lot of numbing. And so as we hear, the numbing goes away. That's the idea. Okay, the next one. Okay, so that's separation from the Guru. I'm going to put it on my word because that way I can look straight at the screen. To feel separation from the spiritual master. Hold on. To feel separation from the spiritual master, Krishna is very good position. That means one who is pure, that means one who is in pure love with Krishna and is representative spiritual master. He thinks always of them. And this thinking process is Krishna consciousness. If we can think always of Krishna, even in separation, that is Krishna consciousness. And in the absolute platform, there's no difference of separation and meeting. The separation is also meeting. Rather, in separation, one relishes the loving relationship more tasty. Did you hear that, everyone? Did you get it? More tasty. The pizza tastes better when you don't have it. Wow, it's amazing. How could that be? It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, someday you'll understand. Maybe not yet. If we can think always of Krishna, even in separation, that is Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Of course, that's another important point, which we'll discuss in a second. The separation is also meeting. Rather in separation, one relishes the loving relationship more tasty. That's an interesting word, right? We use this word. It's tasty. Use the word relishable and tasty. This is important part of Krishna consciousness, to relish things and taste nectar and taste ecstasy and like that. Don't shy away from tasting nectar. I'm making an experiment here. Okay, I have what I'm reading is right in the center of my screen. And so it kind of looks like I'm looking at you at the same time. The separation is also meeting. Rather, in separation, one relishes the loving relationship more tasty. So don't be disappointed that you are separated from me. I'm always thinking of you, how you are making progress. And I'm always expecting your letters that you have already opened a center there and you're working very nicely. So I want to go over this. First point Prabhupada is making, and this is all, I think this is all going to come in the form of review, but there may be one or two points that we haven't discussed that I will spend more time with. Feel separation from Krishna, the spiritual master, is good. Why is it good? If you're actually feeling transcendental separation, not material separation, it means that you're advancing in Krishna consciousness. That's why you feel it. So that it's good in that way. And it's good in that way because you think of the person that you're feeling separation from. So if you're actually feeling separation on a transcendental platform, it's a good sign, sign that you're advancing. And as we said, if they're separated, it will cause you to think of them more, and thinking of Krishna in separation. That is Krishna consciousness. That's it. That's what it's all about. And then Prabhupada makes a point we've heard many times in this discussion. There's no difference between separation and meeting, but then Prabhupada says, well, actually, there is a difference. Separation is better. That's a nice line. There's no difference between separation and meeting, except that separation is better. Hare Krishna. And so then Prabhupada concludes, don't be disappointed you are separated from me. I'm always thinking of you, and like that. I just heard this lecture by Prabhupada, and he was saying, I skipped the line. Hold on. He was saying, can you see God? Yes, you can see God if you're qualified. And then Prabhupada said, right now, God is always seeing, you can see God, and right now he's always seeing you. So Prabhupada here is saying, I'm always thinking of you, how you're making progress. So you don't think of Krishna, he thinks of you. You don't think of your guru, he thinks of you. I'm always expecting your letter. So Prabhupada's just opening the door. That you please write me. I'm always thinking of you. You're thinking of me. This is all good. So I want to talk a little bit about this point that I made before. The separation is also meaning. Rather, in separation, one relishes the loving relationship more tasty. So then I made the point, which some of you may not be aware of, that tasty is good. And it sounds like, if I'm trying to relish Krishna consciousness, and the word here is tasty, we use words like nectar. It's karnamrita. Karna means ear, and amrita means nectar. So it's like nectar from my ear, karnamrita. Or I'm relishing the taste of the holy name. What is it? Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry? So that those ideas go to our head. Like, what are you tasting? Like, what is that? Is it salty? Is it spicy? Is it sweet? Is it sour? Yeah, Prabhu, it's sour. Yeah, my Maha Mantra's got all kinds of bitter. It's got neem leaves in it, my Maha Mantra. Oh, mine's got sweet rice in it. Yeah, well, you're fortunate. Mine's got all kinds of bitter leaves in it. Yeah. So it's not, that's another topic for another day. Take the neem leaves out of your japa, out of your holy name. But you'll see in Shastra, you'll see in the words and songs of the Acharyas and Prabhupada's purports, this concept of nectar, tasting nectar. Have you heard that before? He's tasting nectar. Yeah. You've heard it now, if you haven't heard it before. And there's a story that, I don't know who it was, but Mahaprabhu was with his devotees, and they had someone read a poem. Maybe it was Rupa Goswami who read one of his poems, and everyone was in ecstasy hearing the poem. And then I believe it was Mahaprabhu who said, if a poem doesn't cause your head to spin, it's not a good poem. In other words, you could say a poem or any literary work or any song, if it doesn't produce ecstasy, if it doesn't produce relish, transcendental spiritual relish, throw it away. It's not good. That's what it's supposed to do. Isn't that interesting? And so we are the recipients of that nectar, and we're supposed to be relishing Krishna consciousness, relishing that nectar. I have another thing to tell you. This is specifically for Mridanga players, or specifically for any Mridanga players that need, that aren't that good. The good ones, you don't need to tell them this. Prabhupada said, yeah, neem leaves in your sweet rice. We have an article. Yeah. Sweet rice is good, but those neem leaves ruin it. Yeah. Holy name is sweet. I just ruin it with my neem leaves. Yeah. So Prabhupada once said, Prabhupada liked us to dance. And he said, dancing creates more ecstasy when you dance. Did you know that? Like Prabhupada encouraged dancing because it creates more ecstasy. So what does that mean? That means when you do kirtan, ecstasy is important. Isn't that interesting? Like, and if there's, Mahaprabhu was at Srivas Sangha, and Srivas's grandmother was hiding under the bed, and Mahaprabhu would only do kirtan with his intimate associates, because basically it was like Ras Leela. So it was a private thing. And they were, this same associates that were in Ras Leela or around Ras Leela, they're there. And so it's described that way, that was like the Ras Leela of Mayapur. So Mahaprabhu didn't want anyone impure like ourselves. We wouldn't be allowed, because if we came in, we would rain on the parade. So that's an American expression. Spoil the party. We would spoil the party if we came. You ever at a party and someone comes and you're like, oh, why did he have to come? So it'd be like that, right? But I guess the stories got out that these kirtans were especially ecstatic because of the purity of the devotees that were there and what Mahaprabhu was experiencing. And so Srivas Thakur grandmother wanted to be there, so he let her go. But Mahaprabhu, he ordered that nobody impure should go there. And so he started the kirtan and he said, something's wrong. There's no ecstasy. Is there somebody here who's not pure? And then Srivas Thakur had to admit. You know that story? Isn't that interesting? So ecstasy is very important in bhakti. There was no ecstasy, Mahaprabhu stopped the kirtan. We need ecstasy. It's a similar story. There was a brahmachari there, and he also talked his way in. He was austere. He lived only on milk, and I think he talked his way into Srivas. He convinced Srivas Thakur to let him go. And the same thing happened. Mahaprabhu said, there's no ecstasy here. There must be someone impure. And they said, well, there's a brahmachari here. He's very pure. He only drinks milk. He doesn't eat anything. And Mahaprabhu said, yeah, you can't go back to God just by drinking milk. You all wish it were that easy, right? Well, now you know it's not. So this is what Prabhupada said about the mridanga players. He said, the mridanga players, their job is to play the mridanga in such a way that everyone will dance. Like you can't sit on the ground. The way you're playing is so amazing that even if you feel like going to sleep, you'll get up and dance. Because the dancing produces the ecstasy, and the ecstasy is important. So when we talk about relishing Krishna consciousness, don't think of it as like sense gratification, like eating chocolate ice cream with whipped cream, cherries, and walnuts on top, and then more chocolate syrup all over it. It's not like that. That's when we say tasty, you probably think of your favorite food, right? Isn't it? Oh, that was tasty, Kirtan Prabhu. It was just like ice cream with chocolate syrup, walnuts, and cherries and whipped cream. It's not like that at all. The taste actually means it is it's a sign of purity, because you're able to relish the beauty of Krishna and the sound of Krishna's name and the katha. So that is the sign we're advancing. That's the stage of ruchi. So we call it, I'm experiencing Krishna's beauty as presence, as ecstasy. Like that's what's actually going on. So that's necessary, right? It's necessary that we're able to experience those things. And anything that helps you experience that, that's good. And anyone who can help you experience that, that person's good. And that's why I believe it was Rupa Goswami, Mahaprabhu was glorifying Rupa Goswami. This poetry is amazing. It's making everyone ecstatic. So The goal is ecstasy, nothing less. Got it? Is that the name of today's class? The goal is ecstasy, nothing less. Go for, we have the saying, go for the gold. We say, go for the ecstasy. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we have not many questions yet, but there's something in here. Yeah, Scarlett says, in my understanding, not even Lord Krishna understood Radha's love. That's why Krishna, yeah. Or have I misunderstood something wrong? Yeah, you've understood something right. Yeah. So, what to say about following me? Yeah, it is a fact. But we have to understand that the love of Radha is unlimited. So how would you ever calculate it? Your calculator can't go that high. And as described in, I believe, Nectar of Devotion, the way it works is when Krishna sees Radha, his love expands. Radha sees Krishna love expand, her love expands. And then it keeps going on. It's been going on that way eternally and it'll never end. That's a lot of love. You can write a song about that, Scarlett. Got a lot of love. That's a lot. It's eternally expanding, right? And those of you who are married know that, or have been married, you especially know, that sometimes the love does not expand, but it contracts. It contracts to the point where it doesn't exist anymore, right? And that's called divorce. Or you stay together, you don't get divorced. It's just like there's nothing there. That also makes it difficult to understand Krishna's love. But yes, Radharani's love is so deep, Krishna couldn't even understand it. And so, like when someone told Prabhupada, I'm a devotee, and Prabhupada said, no, you shouldn't say you're a devotee. You should say, I'm trying to be a devotee. So in the same way, I understand Krishna's love. No, we're trying, even Krishna can't understand Radha's love. So we're trying to understand it. That's all. But at the same time, we have this idea that a drop from the ocean of love is sufficient. You don't need the whole ocean. Because the quality of that love and the depth of that love, even in the drop, is sufficient to completely purify us and take us back to Godhead. So your Krishna consciousness is not dependent on how much you understand. So don't, if you're like 20 years from now, you think, I still can't understand this. It doesn't matter. It's not like most things, if whatever you need to understand, you've already understood. No, it's just subtleties of it. Your Krishna consciousness is not dependent on how deeply you understand something. There's a lot of very advanced devotees that don't understand everything. So don't worry about that. And one time they asked Prabhupada, what does he know? And Prabhupada said, I know everything Krishna wants me to know. Like, do you know everything? I know everything Krishna wants me to know. So if Krishna wants you to know something, you'll know it. He'll make that knowable, and you can pray about it and so on. But don't become discouraged and think, I'm hopeless because I don't understand something. Yeah. How much should you understand? That's the point, is you can't understand what you don't understand. You understand what I just said, yeah. I think you all understand that you can't understand what you can't understand. Because you've tried to understand what you can't understand and you realize you couldn't understand it. Which makes you realize, I guess I need to become more pure to understand this, and I'll come back to this later. And you will always understand it more. Krishna Premi said, just I was thinking about this. How much should we understand? I mean, how can you understand something you don't understand until you become more purified? So you can't beat yourself up about it, thinking I'm so stupid because I don't understand this, but it may be normal to not understand it. And Krishna Premi, I would also say it's better not to understand it than to misunderstand it, because some people who are too smart are smart enough to misunderstand, right? I have a story I've told before, but a lot of you are new. It's an interesting story. So when I was a very young devotee, I was in charge of a temple. And so I was very, I didn't know enough to like do something stupid. That's the advantage of being young. You don't know enough to do the wrong thing. You think, well, I don't know enough, I'll do the wrong thing. No, it could work the other way. When you know more, you think, well, I'm smarter, so I can, speculate more. So Prabhupada gave us an instruction. We were staying out very late on Harinam up till midnight, and there were some problems in the movement. And he said, well, I don't want you to stay out late because you don't have a proper morning program. So then he said, everybody should not do late night Harinam and have a morning program. So that's what we did. And then he said, you should not go out in the evening anywhere because it was creating problems. So we didn't go out in the evening, and we were invited once by an Indian man to come to his house. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't go to your house. He wanted us to come for dinner because my guru told me I can't come out in the evening. He said, why can't you go in the evening? So we have to be back, I was a fanatic, so I couldn't give a good answer. It's just Guru Maharaj doesn't want us out in the evening because we used to stay out late. But we would go to his house at 6 and come back at 8. And I just said, Guru Maharaj said, we cannot come back. We cannot go out at night. The man was quite frustrated with me. He thought, what an idiot this guy is, which I was at the time. When I was only 20, I didn't know anything. But you cannot fault me because I followed strictly what Prabhupada said. So here's my little mantra. After that happened, and I reflected on it like 50 years later, my mantra was, in 1970, when I was the president of the temple in Vancouver, I was not smart enough to disobey Prabhupada. But now that I'm smart enough, I could like concoct and disobey and do so many wrong things because I know so much. You get the idea, right? Like sometimes you don't know enough to deviate. And it's only when you know more and you think, it's like, what they say? The people who are the most confident drivers are the ones who get in accidents. I've been driving all my life. I can eat, I can do my email, I can talk on the phone simultaneously, I can polish my toenails, I can do it all while I drive. They're the ones who get in the accidents, right? So it's like, I know Krishna consciousness. I've read Bhagavad Gita a million times. I read all the books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all 100 of them. I've read all the Sandarbhas of Jiva Goswami. I've read all these books by Rupa Goswami, Jaiva Dharma. I've read everything. Yeah. Now you're perfectly qualified to mess up. You have to be careful. You have, not that you will mess up, but you have the facility to. Whereas if you're just this little devotee who's like, what about this? I don't know. I have to ask my guru. I mean, it's not that we want to start a cult where you can't think, but what are you going to have for breakfast? I don't know. I have to ask my guru. If it's okay to have 1.5 bananas, or should I only have one? It's not like that. But you understand the point, right? That, yeah. Sometimes, Krishna Premi, it's good that you don't understand, because then you just say, I don't understand this. I've got to I don't have the brain to misunderstand it. So that's good also. So try to understand, don't try to misunderstand. If you know too much, you could misunderstand. We just heard, Gandhari, there's a devotee in Ruski. And he's writing a book on polygamy, how polygamy is good and bona fide and all kinds of things. Ladies, this could be your big chance to get a husband. Because now one man will have at least 5 wives, your chances are up 500%. There's only one minor problem in this book. Although in Varnashram, polygamy was allowed, Prabhupada decided in our movement it should not be allowed. That's just a minor problem, right? So he's probably read everything about polygamy and analyzed it in such a way that it's like, this makes sense. The second minor problem is it's illegal in most places. Just another minor problem. Yeah, the whole Hare Krishna movement is doing something illegal. That's not like the best thing for the movement, is it? So Prabhupada had a name for this. He called it overintelligence. It's like you think you're so smart now that you can misunderstand something. I'm so smart I can, disobey my guru. That was called overintelligence. Please bring me a cup of water. Here, go, Maharaj, here's a cup of milk. Milk. Why'd you bring milk? Because milk's better than water. But I asked for water. No, Guru Maharaj, milk, take milk. It's better. That was Prabhupada's example of overintelligence. Factually speaking, milk is better, but not always better in every situation, and definitely not what the guru wanted. So you get the idea, right? So the subtitle for this class is Sometimes It Pays to Be Stupid, right? Is that it? Right? Ignorance does have its benefits on occasion. Yeah. So you all probably don't know this, but the BBT had a Sanskrit and Bengali department. And that was for Prabhupada's books, because they had to go over his Sanskrit and Bengali and the translate, to make sure everything was good. And because they could read Sanskrit and Bengali, they could read books that none of us could read. And it's quite common for devotees in that department to start doubting Prabhupada because they would read other books that would say things that seemed to contradict or that would be different from the way Prabhupada was applying the philosophy. And so that was a dangerous department. Not many people survived that. I think nowadays it's better, but in those days, I think there was close to a 50% death rate in the Sanskrit department. Yeah, seriously. Seriously. Do you know, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, do you know there's no such thing as a brahmacharini ashram in Gaudiya Math? Like women come to the temple, they do not live in the temple. It's taboo, not allowed. Forget it. It's not going to happen. Don't ask. And what did Prabhupada do? All these women were coming. He had to give them shelter. Living on your own, not always the best thing. You want to live that way. He gave them shelter. And he said, and Prabhupada said in his own words, this has never been done before. And I am being criticized for doing it because women are never allowed to live in the temple. Wow. So now you got this Sanskrit book, which says, there's no such thing as a women's ashram and it's bogus and this and that. And you might start doubting your guru. Better you don't understand too much. So Prabhupada said, don't read too many books. It's not necessary. This could be one of the problems. Okay, we have another question. When we reach a kind of ecstasy or happiness in devotional service, how can we keep that state without being anxious of losing it? Well, this is my joke, Ananda. If you're on the stage of bhava or more, don't chant while you drive because you'll get in an accident when the ecstasy hits and you faint. It's like, tell your insurance company, you'll have to find the Maha Mantra because the fault of the Maha Mantra that I fainted. So that's your little joke. Mahatma Prabhu says in his japa workshops, you shouldn't chant while you drive because you can't focus. But the reason I don't chant while I drive because I faint because I have so much taste. All right. So here's the simple answer. Ecstasy, as you know, the word for ecstasy is bhav. Bhava means ecstasy. It means other things. There's bhava. But here, bhava It means ecstasy. Sometimes it means the 8 astika bhavas. Astika means 8. The 8 ecstasies that you get that manifest when you reach the stage of bhava. So Ananda, here's the good news, because her name's Ananda, so she needs to know about ecstasy. Here's the good news. When you reach a stage of bhava, you don't lose it. Here's the bad news. When you're not on the stage of bhava, you lose it. So I have to explain that because it's very interesting. As a philosophical discussion, we have 8 minutes before I'm going to disappear and go back to work on the self-care course, because all the translators are waiting for these piles of documents I haven't given them because I should have been doing this last week. No excuses, just it's a reality. So let's say I'm on the stage of Bhajana Kriya. Bhajana Kriya is the stage where you begin practicing devotional service. It's the stage from which you take first initiation. You want to practice, right? And so from Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti is the next stage. Anartha Nivritti means the anarthas start to go, right? Now, you might say, but on the stage of Bhajana Kriya, my anarthas are starting to go. And the answer is yes. But when you're on the stage of Anartha Nivritti, most of your anarthas are gone. That's the difference. So the higher stage, there are aspects, symptoms of the higher stage on the lower stage, but it's just not stable. Then above Anartha Nivritti is Nistha. Nistha means steady. On the stage of Anartha Nivritti, there's still anarthas and they're still affecting you. They're getting cleaned. The stage of Nishtha, most of them now are cleansed, and the ones that aren't gone, their fangs have been pulled out. So you can now be steady. That's why you're steady, because there's nothing really disturbing you, right? Do you, on the stage of Nishtha, do you get a taste for devotional service? Yes, of course. Do you like chanting? Yes, of course. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have a bad day, right? So, do you like, on the stage of Nishtha, do you like going to Bhagavatam class? Yes, but not everyone's class you like, right? So it's not stable ruchi. It's just, you're close to it. It's the next stage. So it's, when you're next door to somebody's house, you hear their music. So you're getting the music from the higher state, but sometimes the music is off because you don't have the music in your house. So when you get to that stage, ruchi, then you always have the taste. You don't lose it because you're on that stage. I mean, you could fall from that stage, but for the sake of this discussion, when you're on that stage, it's permanent. So whatever is on that stage is permanent. So it's a permanent taste. So you don't even have to be bhava. Well, if you want ecstasy, then you have to be on the stage of bhava. But there's a permanent taste. That's a stage of ruchi. Before that, sometimes you'll have it, sometimes you don't. And so similarly with bhava, when you're on that stage, ecstasy is permanent. You may manifest it or not, but it's permanent. Before you get to that stage, you may have ecstasy jumping in a kirtan, and you say that was ecstatic kirtan. You eat a gulab, you'll say that gulab was ecstatic. You'll have a really ecstatic japa session. You'll hear a class. You go, that class was ecstatic. You can experience some trickling down of the stage of bhava. So that's one explanation. And there's one more explanation since we have 4 minutes. The other explanation is that bhakti is just the expansion of bhava. So you have bhava now, but you just don't have much. And so when you get to the stage of bhava, then you have it fully. And up to that stage of bhava, you just have less. So bhajana kriya is just a little more bhava than sadhusanga, and sadhusanga is a little more bhava than shraddha. And nishtha is a little more bhava than anartha nivritti, and ruchi is a little more bhava than nishtha, and asakti is a little more bhava than ruchi, and bhava is bhava. Bhava is the full bhava. So that's another explanation. You probably heard that it's faith that increases, right? As you go up to higher stages, it's faith. But there's another explanation that it's bhava, and it's just so you're developing little seed of bhava, more, that seed of bhakti. It's just bhava, and then at the stage of bhakti, it's growing. So that's the answer of why you sometimes lose it. And I'll give a practical answer from my own experience. We're in certain environments that invoke more Krishna consciousness. And then in those environments, we get lots of realization and we experience a lot of happiness in Krishna consciousness. And that environment could simply be someone's visiting your temple and they're amazing. And so they're creating this environment. Or that for some reason, your job has been really good, or you're able to study more or study better. Something is happening. You've gone to a festival or whatever it is. Something is happening in your life in such a way that you're able to relish, or you're getting realization, whatever. And then your life shifts a little bit, because every day or every week is different. Now this week I'm sick, or that devotee has left, or I wasn't able to go to class, or I ate too much for dinner. Something changes, and that environment now changes, and then the realizations change. Have you had that experience before? Like you're really, really like enthusiastic. You're having like 100 realizations a second. And next week, you can't remember one of them. All you can remember is how miserable you are. That's the only thing you remember. And last week was like light years away. Did that actually happen, or was that a dream? I can't believe it happened. No, it didn't happen. All I know is misery this week. That's the pain of being a neophyte devotee. So, as an impetus for all of you to not be neophytes, as we said, as you go up, when you hit a stage, now you're on that floor, you're not on the elevator. You get off the elevator, but when you're not on that level, you're on the elevator, you're just going. So if you advance, then at some point you're going to be steady. It's not going to be like a yo-yo, up and down, this and that. It'll be like, oh, every day is more or less the same. And when you get to bhava, then don't drive and chant at the same time. That's a disclaimer. I should have that in Nectar of Devotion under the chapter bhava. Disclaimer: don't operate dangerous machinery and chant Hare Krishna if you're on the stage of bhava. Something like that, right? Okay, we have one last question. We have 1 minute. I noticed some differences between brahmachari and brahmacharini. I don't really understand one thing. For example, brahmachari always lives in the temple under the guidance of seniors or with guru as his servant. And as I understand, brahmacharini never travels alone, and the way brahmachari never travels alone in the way he wants. But I noticed sometimes ladies who call themselves brahmacharini, they can travel alone anywhere they want and change one temple to another according to what they want, and nobody will say anything. It depends what part of the world you're in. Could you please explain if this is correct or if there's some deviation? Yeah, it's just temple. It's going to depend on the temple. It shouldn't be that way in the perfect world. But, maybe if you tell a woman not to go, she'll yell at you. So you just let her go. And the brahmachari will say, okay. I mean, that sounds funny, but there's some truth to it, and, you want, it's always like you want to make sure women are happy and everything's good. So, with brahmacharis, they're a little more austere. It's easier to just say, go here, don't go here. So that could also be a reason. Okay, it's time for japa. Gormani, I'm going to disappear because I have to work on the self-care course, and I'm like on fire now, and the fire could go out at any moment, and I want to get back while it's still going. So we're going to be feeling separation from all of you, but in separation, we're going to be closer. And as Prabhupada said, when you're chanting, every Krishna is there, all his associates are there. That means all the spiritual masters hold disciplic succession. We're all together while we chant. So we'll all be together. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming. And we'll see you Friday. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.
His Grace Mahatma Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Let's chant. Let's start with the meditation on not the body. Hare Krishna.